All right. Welcome to the Monthly Movie Dispatch, the movie review show from friends you can trust. Every week, we broadcast a review of a new film, talk about some film news, and recommend what to watch. We've been talking, critiquing, and gushing over movies since we were in high school, and we aim to bring you honest conversation on relevant cinema. I am going to be this week's host, Brandon Bulby. I have with me my brother, Shaun Bulby.
Hey.
Hey, welcome back. So, on this week's episode, we will be reviewing the new Wes Anderson film, The French Dispatch. So, before we get into it, thought it would be a fun game, as we've done many times on this podcast, to do a
Hmm.
little Wes Anderson rank off.
Yeah.
Wes Anderson, and I know to speak to both of us, he's been in our lives for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, I know I started hearing him when Royal Tenenbaums came out. Like, what is this quirky indie movie that
Yeah.
I barely know that whole genre because I'm still a or I'm still a like freshman in high
Yeah.
school.
It was
Um,
definitely one of those movies where I didn't know that you could do that with movies
yeah,
type thing,
you,
right?
you could have a style in
Yeah.
movies
And
that
like
is
you
worth talking
can
about.
yeah. Um
I
yeah.
thought a lot of style came from like storyline maybe at that point. I
Hmm.
didn't really know to think about visual style and stuff and
Yeah.
all that kind of thing.
And yeah, using your visual style to like create your story and create your world.
Atmosphere.
Yeah.
And from there, it progressed, like Life Aquatic and Grand Budapest Hotel came out soon after. Those were kind of like high schooly movies. I remember we all anticipated
Hmm.
and got very into and talked a lot about. So
Yep.
I don't know. He's been a part of our lives. We're big fans,
Hmm.
um, and always interested in what he is doing, without a doubt.
Hmm. Yeah, for
So
sure.
let's do the game. Let's do a quick rank off, shall we?
Sure.
Um, what I would like to do is go backwards. He has 10 feature films,
Oh, wow.
and we'll just go back and forth like 10, 10, 9, 9, 8, 8, and pause if we have something big to comment on. You
All right.
ready?
Yeah.
All right. I'll go first, okay?
All right.
Um, Number 10, no surprise, Bottle Rocket. First film.
Yeah. Mine's Isle of Dogs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, not too far off, but
All right.
all right. Yeah, my number nine is Isle of Dogs
Okay, cool. Yeah,
as
my
well.
number nine
His last
is
movie.
is Bottle Rocket.
Okay, just interchangeable. Though I
Yep.
do feel like Bottle Rocket's significantly worse. But
Hmm.
I think there's a
Yeah.
big jump between
So
those two.
yeah, I mean, I just like I haven't seen Bottle Rocket. I only saw Bottle Rocket once, way,
Yeah.
way, way back in the day, and I remember really enjoying it. So like, part of
Okay.
me still thinks it's kind of up there in the Wes Anderson. There's something to see, but it's
Yeah.
been so long that I honestly can't
Right.
remember.
Right.
So
You're remembering it.
yeah.
Um. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That's interesting. His first and most recent film.
Hmm.
Disregarding the French Dispatch.
Yeah.
All right. So then, my number eight for me would be Rushmore.
Yeah. So, Brandon, this is about where I cop out.
Wait. What
Honestly,
do you
like,
mean?
so I mean, I genuinely like. There's a couple movies that I just said the two movies that I don't really put up up there on his like top movies, but
Yeah.
um for me, Wes Anderson, it's just like there's a couple movies that I'm not a huge fan of, and then
Yeah.
everything else I like genuinely have a really hard time picking and thinking about what I enjoy better. And like, me, I do a lot of filmographies from
You do a
directors,
lot of
and
comparisons.
I always rank them, and I generally don't have a hard time ranking them. But maybe it's because Wes Anderson movies are so similar to each other. I genuinely
Yeah.
like. I just from here on out, I love Wes Anderson like every single Wes Anderson movie so much that I don't like. I just recently rewatched uh Rushmore, and it's like,
Okay.
God, I love that movie so much.
So Rushmore hits hard on rewatch.
Yes,
That's good. That's good. I
absolutely.
mean, a part of me, only watched Rushmore once, and I know it's like his breakout movie. You know,
Yeah.
Bottle Rocket was his starter, but Rushmore is his
Hmm.
critical breakout.
Yeah.
People love that movie. Say it's maybe it's number one. Some people even say.
Hmm.
I don't feel that. I didn't feel that the first time I saw it, but I
Yeah.
also I had to go back to see Rushmore after I'd already seen a bunch of his other films, so maybe
Hmm.
that's the reason.
Yeah, definitely. And like,
But yeah,
so like, for example, you know, you kind of maybe forget about, like, it's definitely it's his smallest movie. Like, there's not, you know, there's not
less
traveling, there's
characters.
less, there's
Yeah.
fewer characters, but
Hmm.
it's like, when you really think about what happens in the movie and all the things happening in the movie, it's like, it's so good. Like, the
Okay.
play that he does, and like Bill Murray's sad Bill Murray, and like the rival, anyways, but like, once you
You're
rewatch it, it's like,
so from here on out,
yeah,
you're straight up copying out. I'm the only
kind of.
one going to give a list.
I'll comment.
You'll show me.
I'll
Okay.
just like, I'll give a light comment as to why I think every movie is incredible.
Okay. Yeah. And again, like I love every Wes Anderson film, and we're
Hmm.
already up in the great ones at this
Yeah.
point. So this list starts good and ends incredible. None are
Hmm.
bad. My number seven, I guess, is Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah, God, I love Fantastic Mr. Fox so much.
Yeah.
It's so
I
good.
think, yeah, I think that's a culprit of seeing it maybe once as
Hmm.
well. And so maybe these one timers are
Yeah.
down there, Rushmore, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah.
But then above this is where I've re-seen like most of these.
Hmm.
Moonrise Kingdom is
Yeah.
my number
God,
six.
one of my favorites. I love that movie so much. It's so
You're just
good.
gonna keep saying that.
I mean, pretty much. Like, that's genuinely how I feel about it.
No
Every
surprises here with what I'm saying though.
a little. I mean, like, I feel like Moonrise Kingdom is pretty low. I also
Yeah,
will say, like,
most
Rushmore
people
is
would put it
pretty
higher.
low, but at
Right,
the
right.
same time, it's like, I mean, then what else? What else? Like, for
Yeah,
me, I'm like, from there, like, that's what I'm saying. Everything is
I
kind of
understand.
equal, so it doesn't even matter to me. Like, so yeah, go ahead.
All right, so my next one, maybe this is kind of the start of my weird opinion take. Darjeeling Unlimited, I would put at my number
Yeah.
five. I don't. That movie holds a special place in my heart. Like Royal
Mm-hmm.
Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic, Darjeeling Unlimited were the like trilogy that I was used to,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the hell out of that movie and what he did with it.
Yeah.
I know most people put it a little low, pretty
Actually,
much
I
lower.
mean, at the same time, a lot of people would put it at number one. Like, the Nerd Writer has a really good video about that movie, and for
Oh
him, it's his
wow,
number one. And like,
that's cool.
that's, again, it's like Wes Anderson. Any movie can be someone's number
Yeah,
one, and it just like connects. You know, every
yeah.
movie there's something to connect with. But continue.
All right. So my top three. Sorry, I was including. So my top three.
Hmm.
Um, the Royal Tenenbaums
Yeah.
is number three.
Wow. I actually would have guessed you would put that higher, because you know, we were
Hmm.
obsessed with that movie, and yeah.
That was like that was the introduction for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
And a movie that snuck up above it. There's only two left. I would
Hmm.
put The Grand Budapest Hotel as number two.
Yeah. I love that movie. A lot of
Uh,
people are kind of, I don't know. A lot of people are kind of down on that movie, I feel like, and
yeah,
I absolutely love that movie.
I feel like
I don't.
it was not up for an Oscar. It was raved
Yeah.
about at the time. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see people down on it, but I number two is pretty high.
Yeah.
And my number one, which is a controversial take, I don't think anyone puts this as their number one, is Life Aquatic. Straight
Yeah.
up.
I was,
That
yeah.
movie makes me cry.
Hmm.
It has everything, and
Hmm.
it's also got like the adventure aspect that like it's
Yeah.
a bigger story than most of
Hmm.
these,
I feel like
and
that
that
was the movie
makes it more
where,
fun.
like, I feel like every movie he does this, but that movie he really solidified, like, where he was going to take his style.
Hmm.
Like, I feel like that was
With
that
the
after
quirkiest humor.
was that after
Uh,
Darjeeling Limited?
No, it was right before Darjeeling
Okay.
Limited. It was in between the
But
two.
yeah, I mean, I feel like when what he does with the, like, two-dimensional boat stuff, where he's like
Yeah,
going from room to room in that two-dimensional, like, architectural boat,
I
and
feel like it's randomly goofy more than his previous ones.
mhm.
Um,
Yep.
but I don't know.
Yeah,
That's my list.
I totally agree. Like, the ending of that movie is so
Yeah, I
good.
just weep.
Like,
Just
you
weep.
weep, and the score, or the
Yeah,
Sigur Rós
soundtrack.
soundtrack. Yeah, and I was just like talking to Kelly about that movie, and she kind of ranked it a lot lower, and I was just like, it's like, yeah, it's one of his more heartfelt, and I don't know, but I guess they're all kind of heartfelt. So yeah,
Um,
sorry I copped out on that, but
he definitely copped out.
I just love every single movie so
So
much.
one thing now you are not allowed to cop out on
Uh-oh.
is we need to place the French Dispatch in our rankings and say the number. And you don't have a ranking, but I still need you to give a number
Oh god. Oh my god.
of about where it would land in the 10 film canon. So I will go first to give you a little bit more time to think about it.
Mhm.
Uh, so at this point, my ranking for
Mhm.
French Dispatch is number two.
Whoa. Your face
There it is.
review before
I
for the thumbnail, Brandon. It didn't give it away. I was yeah.
I put
Wow.
it at number two.
That is really cool. I
Yeah,
also really, really liked it. I don't know. I would put it
give it a number.
definitely between 8 and 1.
Okay.
In that grouping of films, I don't know. God, it's like yeah, 3, 4. I feel like, but
Okay.
I
Very
don't
close.
know what's above it or
It's in the
below it.
top. It's in the top
Yeah, it's
in the two of the four region.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and like I don't know, it very well could like rewatching it. I feel like there's a lot you can a lot of rewatch value to the
For
movie
sure.
as well. So like
But
rewatching it, I think I will very much enjoy it, and maybe it'll, I don't know. My whole list
100%.
is
And
totally
the
yeah.
rewatchability is actually a point I wanted to bring up
Mm-hmm.
during the review. So let's switch
Mm-hmm.
gears.
Yeah.
Now you know what we thought about the movie in general, but let's get into our actual review of the movie. So again, we're going to review The French Dispatch, film directed by Wes Anderson. Stars so many people, too many to list, but some of the big names: Benicio del Toro, Adrian Brody, Tilda Swinton, and Frances McDormand.
Mm-hmm.
Some of
All the
the
regulars, and plus
main
like I
characters.
guess like some new ones, Timothy Chalamet
Yeah,
and
fun cameo,
yeah.
like new people all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Plot,
Jeffrey
plot,
Wright
just
is a new one. Go ahead. I just wanted to
definitely.
throw out some new
Um,
faces from to the Wes Anderson.
yeah, plot description, real quick. Arthur Hawertz, the editor of newspaper French Dispatch, dies suddenly of a heart attack. According to the wishes expressed in his will, publication of the newspaper is immediately suspended following one final farewell issue, in which 3 articles from past editions of the paper are republished, along with an obituary. Just reading that there, I learned stuff that I didn't know
Yeah, me
about the
too.
movie.
I
Okay, you felt the same? Because
yeah
the movie opens with the dialogue that's so fast,
yeah.
and I'm like dazzled by the visuals. I was trying to keep up,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's pretty much the opening lines of the movie,
Yeah.
but it's explained in such a convoluted way.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't
guess
know,
I just
and that's
thought it
cool.
was the last. Okay, maybe that'll make more sense in my head because like I came into the movie like after it had already started like but just like
Oh
as
no!
it started basically.
As
I
that
don't
narration
think
was going,
I don't think I missed anything, but I was like, I was sitting in my chair and I was, had just gone to the bathroom and I was kind of I
right?
wasn't quite settled and ready and paying attention. So I definitely missed a little bit of that
Yeah. Well,
early
I
stuff.
was paying attention, and
Yeah.
I missed a little bit
All
of that.
right. Yeah, and
But I
I
think
thought
that actually it
yeah, go
goes to
ahead.
the movie, like you were saying earlier. It's this movie is I don't necessarily want to say complex because you can follow the overarching stories pretty easily, but there's so much detail
Mhm.
and so many side references and little bits of plot that do or don't apply to the main storyline you're seeing that it's hard to keep up at times if you um, let the clutter keep you down.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that's going to grant this film some awesome rewatchability. You're going to be able to find so many things and you're going to like learn so much more about the world and the story every time you see these scenes like unfold and you go
Mhm.
back in. Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you
definitely.
think, Shaun?
Um yeah, totally agree. I think yeah, I think it's his most complex film. Um
Mm-hmm.
and it's told. It's basically those three, or actually, I think it's kind of four because Owen Wilson's
He gets a little
story, which
intro.
is
Yeah.
a little intro. Um, but yeah, I think each story is really unique and really interesting, and each one is doing something that Wes Anderson has never done before, really exploring a world that he hasn't explored.
Hmm.
Like the first one is the art scene that he's exploring. The second one is politics, and the third one is really digging into like I guess food. I guess the third one is more like a heist type thing that he's done
Yeah.
before. But like
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
food aspect of that one
It's
is I
really
think is
unique.
really interesting and unique.
Yeah.
And I do think
I
its complexity does maybe it is could be seen as hard to follow and a little arduous and a little self-indulgent, but for me it really did just like color the world so vibrantly. And yeah, it was just like constantly being like pulled ahead with just like constantly trying to hang on as it's just like
yes.
dragging me through this story. And I just like I loved that ride so much, and
Hmm.
fell in love with so many characters so quickly. And then like you just kind of, and then they just kind of like slip through your fingers, and you just like moving on to the next thing,
Yeah.
and then so quickly falling in love again with a new set of characters and a new world and a new genre. Um, and yeah,
I
I
think
just
I
absolutely loved it.
agree. Like I think this is his most complex movie. I think this is um his most experimental
Hmm.
movie,
Yeah.
storytelling wise. I think this is maybe his least fun movie to watch as far as a common viewer. I think there's less here for more. There's the least amount of things here for a broader audience to grab onto
Hmm.
because it's about like a few very weird storylines, like
Hmm.
weird modern art, like modern food. I don't know, like it's not a common story
Yeah, like
whatsoever,
a
and
new wave French Revolution type
yeah,
thing going on.
and I think maybe dare I say it, this is his most visually experimental film as well. And I would need to rewatch a few others again, like maybe Grand Budapest. Wes Anderson somehow has managed to like increase his creativity
Hmm.
throughout his career
Yeah,
and not become more bland with it as most people do as they grow
yeah.
older and lose the zest
Hmm.
for experimentation. But like I don't know, do you see that as well? Do you see this as maybe his most like
I mean,
visually
I
intricate film?
yes, I do. I
Okay.
totally agree. Although I will say that probably generally every movie that he does is at that point his most visually
Right, that's true.
experimental film. And
It's insane to think about. He's riding at that wave 10 films in.
yeah,
He's not trying any less hard. He's
yeah,
trying more hard than ever before.
yeah, definitely. Um, and yeah, it's he's definitely doing things in this that he's never done before. I think. I mean, now that I said that, I'm thinking the animation. I don't think he's ever really done that. Like just kind of cut into an animated scene like he does in this movie.
That's given it
Um,
gives a reason for it too.
yeah, and
It's
he's
published in the newspaper the following week.
yeah, and I think because of the way he tells the story, the way it's like it's a magazine article, um, and so like I'll also say there's a lot of like layers to this to how this story is being told. So it's like
Yes.
it's
It's Inception
and
storytelling.
yeah, and I will say also that the Grand Budapest Hotel kind of did this because
Hmm.
in that movie it was like a girl reading a book written by a guy
Yeah, I went
who
like 4 layers
interviewed
deep in
the
that
yeah.
movie
So
too.
but this one does it for all the different storylines. And so like you get like for the art one, it's a magazine
or even
article.
starting on a bigger level. The
Yeah,
movie's about this newspaper
yeah. It's
of
about
this man who died.
it's about a magazine of a Liberty, Kansas newspaper, published by Liberty, Kansas newspaper. But it's like Tilda Swinton is giving a presentation, I think after the article came out, I assume. And she's like describing the story as it unfolds. And then it's like jumping back to that story, and it's jumping back and forth between
and
her
and then people
presentation.
in that story start telling the story
Yeah.
as well and start narrating to us, and then we go on like past side quests of those people
Mm-hmm.
inside that story and give backstory to those people's story.
Yeah, and then Tilda
It's
Swinton like towards the end enters the story that she's telling and
mhm.
becomes a part of that story, uh, like a
Yeah,
very very side character, and it's just like there's so many layers, and it kind of I mean I have to say it kind of reminds me of like a really good Maria Bamford joke where you're just like
mhm.
you're like following it, but at some point you realize that you're almost lost in the layers, and it's
Okay.
kind of like,
Hmm.
but not in a bad way. It's like you realize like the brilliance of the
Yeah,
kind of
you get
the
lost in the layers, the info's
crazy.
there,
Yeah.
but you're trying to keep up. But
Hmm.
also, like I said at the beginning, like each story has a general story that's being told
Hmm.
that is kind of common and
Yeah.
that you can follow and understand.
Hmm.
And while there's side quests on top of that that get complex quickly but then go away, like you're still able to enjoy the like broader trilogy of stories being told.
Hmm.
And then, like you said, you do that three times. So not
Hmm.
only is it like Inception for Wes Anderson, but he does it three separate times, if
Yeah.
not more, throughout this movie in different
Yeah.
segments.
And in my opinion, each time he does it, he is wildly successful, and
Yes.
um, it's incredible. It
Yeah.
is a feat to watch. It is it is a true work of genius, I think, and I
I
really really
absolutely
liked
agree.
it.
What is your favorite? Oh wait, so I mean, stop there. That's a good
Yeah,
ending.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Spoiler section. Let's just move on to spoiler section. I
Hmm.
actually think we have a lot more to talk about, but that was just a good conclusion.
Yeah,
I think we have our general thoughts, so let's just move everything else
yeah.
into spoilers, spoilers, spoilers.
Hmm.
All right. I just have a good opener for
Yeah.
the spoiler section. What's your favorite of the three stories? I don't know.
Well, Brandon, I
Just want to.
couldn't even pick like what Wes Anderson movie is my favorite, let alone my favorite of favorite story in a single
Yeah,
movie.
it's just like a warm up
God, I
question.
don't know. There's like a single moment that really stood out to me. I don't know if the story as a whole, but like the conclusion to the story, I thought was so fucking brilliant. The when Jeffrey Wright when Jeffrey Wright is talking to Bill Murray, and Bill Murray is like reading the article, and he says like, but it's not really about food, or I forget what
Oh
Bill Murray
my
says,
God,
and
yeah, the idea
he says, well, I actually I taught I wrote something about something that the chef said,
oh yeah, I'm
but
like
I
gonna
threw it
cry right
away
now.
because it was too sad. And like he goes and he pulls it out of the trash and hands it to Bill Murray, and then it
And it's the
jumps into
most
that scene.
beautiful
Yeah,
monologue.
it is
It's
so
so good.
incredible. Uh,
And it ends with a joke too. I mean, it ends with him saying, "This, why did you get rid of this? This is
yeah,
your most, but this is the best
yeah,
part of the story."
yeah.
And then Andrew or whoever he
Jeffrey
replies
Wright.
like, "I literally can't agree any less."
Yeah,
And everyone in my theater
and then he
cracked up.
says, "Well, I'm putting it in anyways.
Yeah.
Well, it's going in
Um,
anyways."
before that scene happened, and it kind of wraps up with the animation and the father son smaller moment.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought it was ending. I was like, for a split second, I was like, oh no, like we didn't have like that moment in
Yeah,
this one that
yeah,
hits because the other two had moments that
yeah.
hit. And I was like, oh shit, did he mess up? It like and I know this movie's kind of coming to an end. And so I was like, shit, he's not sticking the landing.
Hmm.
And then like you said, they literally say that out loud, like as if he knew
Yeah.
he needed an extra moment of
Hmm.
catharsis in here.
Yeah.
Um, and pulls it out of the trash and reads it to us. And like it was so beautiful.
Literally pulls it out of the trash.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it was like, and there's
I imagine
there's so
someone
many
told him that,
layers.
like,
Yeah,
he so like was giving the script to a friend. The friend was like, "You need like one
yeah,
extra thing here," and like
yeah,
he actually wrote it literally in the script as one extra thing.
yeah,
That's just my guess, but
yeah, maybe.
mhm.
Um,
um,
I thought that
I
scene was like that. Just that scene had so many layers of brilliance.
mhm.
Um, yeah.
It was
Well, how
just
about
all
you?
it just all came around to the
You
chef.
you have
I
a
mean,
you have a
I
fave?
think I think my favorite is I think my favorite is the art like gallery
Uh huh.
storyline,
Yeah.
art exhibit, modern art storyline, and uh, is Benicio
Benicio
del
del Toro.
Toro's
Yeah.
character is just like so good. Like
Uh
I don't
huh.
know, like the serial killer, but like the way he was brought up in this like vagabond art life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but he's actually just kind of like a warm, sweet guy, but
Mm-hmm.
he also growls like a
Yeah.
maniac.
Uh huh.
Um, and I don't know, and like that story, like when you see like what he produced in the like underground walls of the prison and it cuts to
Mm-hmm.
color and she's walking in like slow motion past all of it.
Yeah.
um I don't know, there's just like so many like big revelations in that story
Yeah.
that worked
Definitely.
really well. um and then you find out it's all plastered to the wall.
Yeah.
I just I don't want to recap the whole story of this whole movie, but like that one
Uh,
just worked really well for
yeah.
me on the
And
entertainment level.
for me, Adrian Brody absolutely killed it in that one.
Hmm.
He was so funny, and like I think provided so many great critiques about artistry and like the the commoditization of art. And yeah, and he's just like dragging his reluctant what cousin or no uncles around
Yeah,
with him,
they
like
have no idea what's happening.
yeah, they have no clue, and he's just like,
Trying
we're
to
gonna make
change
so
their whole
much money.
business.
And then like he's bribing all the guards just so he can go in and um,
I think it's
have this art
the
show.
moment when you realize the like what is it, the like Louisiana, is that the
Can
town or is it
I think
Pennsylvania,
it
the
was Liberty,
Kansas
Kansas.
art, yeah, the art gallery owner, like lady, the art
Hmm.
collector,
Yeah.
in Liberty, Kansas, like actually decides to purchase it,
Hmm.
flies it home on her like military grade
Yeah.
like airplane, and then they do the reveal shot of where it ends up,
Hmm.
and it's just like pulls back and they have the entire like concrete wall with the radiators painted
Yeah.
over,
Yeah.
and and then it pulls out to the cornfield, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh my god, this story is so good.
In the
um
wedge, or the door, what was it? It was like a door wedge, door stop
mhm,
um building for some reason.
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't I
just some like
I
really
missed.
modern art thing in the middle of a
Yeah.
cornfield in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere. I don't know, that story just entertaining.
Yeah.
I do want to give props to the middle story too.
Hmm.
uh, Timothy Chalamet
Yeah.
and Frances McDormand's, who I think that was her big story.
Hmm.
Really good. And one of the one of the moments that stands out to me as like such good writing is Frances McDormand's dialogue with the revolutionary girl with
Hmm.
her little mirror
Yeah.
when she's like, "Are you a child?" Or like, "Are you an adult?" Like and she's like, "Of course I am." Well,
Hmm.
she's like, "Well, adults accept apologies."
Yeah.
And it's just like the coldest, like
Yeah.
most reality check line.
Hmm.
Um, it's just like such smart
Yeah.
writing
That whole
in the
that
way.
whole conversation was really fantastic. Me
Mhm.
and isn't it meanwhile he's like playing a game of chess with the mayor of the city
Yeah,
inside the
as
barricade. And that was
like whoever wins the
yeah.
like political agenda, I
Yeah.
guess.
I guess
And the
so.
only reason they lose is because he stops playing chess because
Uh-huh.
he's listening to the argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
That was a really really great fun story, and the way it ends was
With him dying,
yeah.
man, it's a big
Um
spoiler. But like that
yeah.
actually was like pretty well. Okay, there's the shot of them on the motorcycle
Mhm.
running away,
Yeah.
which is like so just stylized to hell. Like I think
Yeah.
that is like the most out of character thing he does in the movie, or it looks like nothing else in the movie, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just total 80s wild like motorcycle Dutch angled, neon light shot. It's
Yeah.
just really cool in slow motion. But yeah, intercut with him like dying on the radio tower, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we're supposed to
Yeah.
believe?
Yeah.
He gets
I think so.
electrocuted to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's done in like a stylized way. Like
Yeah.
I guess he dies, but he's just standing there smoking a cigarette
Uh huh.
still. Um, but
Yeah.
then it cuts to his parents just like in the car crying. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It was so beautifully done.
Yeah. Definitely. Um,
And it
yeah.
just his life ends with just like a little like candle and a little like
Yeah.
poster on the floor of the cafe.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Great
Um,
way to end the story.
for sure. Um,
What else stood out to you?
man, as we're talking about, I'm just remembering so many little things. Honestly, the things that stand out to me the most are just like the little things, the little details, the little like the fact that the
Yeah.
art gallery is like a doorstop shape, and the
Uh-huh.
fact that it's like so like the I love how the story opens by talking about the magazine, right?
Hmm.
And like going over how Bill Murray runs the place,
Yeah.
um,
What type of
and
manager he is and all
yeah,
that.
and like the little subtle things, and then like it goes over his will and in detail exactly how he wanted to close down the magazine, and
Hmm.
all those little bits and pieces. Um, I guess another thing I wanted to point out with Jeffrey Wright's story was well, so first of all, we're talking about how many layers there are. That one is the article, but he's reciting the article in an interview where the person asks, because he
Right.
has like not he has a perfect memory for with words or whatever. He remembers perfectly everything he ever
Yes.
wrote,
Yeah.
and so he's reciting the entire article verbatim.
Right. In
And
the
then like
future,
yeah,
after it's been published.
yeah, and so he
Details like that are like just coming at you and
yeah,
you're like trying to process it and
yeah,
it just moves on. And so like even just talking about it right now, it's becoming more clear to me.
uh-huh,
Because there's just so like a million things like what we just said
yeah,
that are happening all throughout
definitely.
this movie.
But there's a moment where I think the guy asks him why he writes so much about food,
Yes.
and that description was
Yes.
another, like, he has two really really great, some of my favorite moments of the movie, and that is another one, just him describing what it is about food and the dining experience that is so meaningful to us.
Yeah,
And
it goes black and white again. All the
mhm,
lights shut off.
yeah,
It like pulls up to him in a couple interesting ways,
hmm,
and he says something about, "But I'm usually alone," and
hmm,
the interviewer disappears from
yeah,
stage,
yeah,
and he's just sitting on the stage giving the monologue by himself.
hmm,
And yeah, and he says something like, "But like the food, the cafes, and the bar stool is always there for me of
yeah,
some sort, and
definitely,
that's it. It keeps me company, all that stuff."
hmm,
But yeah, it's really beautiful, and the way it's visually like presented to you is just makes it feel so much more significant too.
hmm,
Like it gives it a lot of gravity.
yeah, for sure. um
That's a great, yeah. I actually was forgetting that one. That's a standout moment.
yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm forgetting so many
I mean,
little
just like no
little
crying.
things. Yeah,
And
no
at
crying.
first, it's like a really cliche, like, or not cliche, it's just like an easy joke that I didn't necessarily
Hmm,
laugh at. But then
yeah,
it comes back like three other times in actually really interesting ways
uh-huh,
throughout.
yeah. I'm
Uh,
even remembering the opening of the movie with the guy who, or like, it's a little turntable that's like they're putting like drinks and little food pieces on this little turntable
an
thing,
egg and an
and
oyster and
yeah,
like and
and
shot.
so, and it like happens all so quickly, and it's so well done. And then the guy like picks it up and he walks up the stairs like through this two-dimensional maze, and he's like
Such an
walking all
elaborate
over the screen.
shot
Yeah,
and scene.
and he finally gets up there, and I think
He pulls up the little dolly.
yeah, he
It's
pulls
just
it up.
like who like it's like so much detail. Like
Mm-hmm.
we already listed off like the most creative scene of him walking up that set in like such a weird way, but then they also have him dolly up the drinks up a ladder because there's no
Yeah.
way for him to carry it. It's
Yeah.
like detail on top of detail on top of detail.
Uh, and then like doesn't he go in? If I'm remembering correctly, he goes in, brings everyone their food, and then they
Yeah.
find out that he died, that Bill Murray died, and he's where he starts crying, and is that right? Or maybe I'm misremembering, but that's the first time you hear the joke.
And yeah,
And it
and it
was just
tilts up
like,
to the top.
yeah, and it was just such a long, elaborate little introduction to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't for that joke, but it was like that was kind of the. I think that was the end of that little his introduction, that
Yeah.
server guy's introduction, because he says no
And
crying, and then he walks out.
yeah, and it comes, full circle in the final scene when they're
Mm-hmm.
actually sitting there, just
Yeah,
post mortem,
yeah,
talking about everything, and
mm-hmm.
someone starts crying, and she's like, Frances McDormand's just like, no crying,
Yeah,
in a like the most serious manner. Like
yeah,
it's his only thing he didn't want.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
and his joke, or the thing he keeps saying, when you write it, or he says, no matter how you write it, just make it sound like you meant to write it like that or something. He said it like
yeah,
three or four
yeah,
times throughout the movie.
yeah, for sure. He's like, and that speaks to a lot of things in art that people always let slide. If
Mm-hmm.
someone means to do something,
Mm-hmm.
that means you can't critique it,
Yeah.
which is kind of a critique that I've never thought is too valid.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you can say, but I don't know
Yeah.
if it excuses all that much. So I think Wes Anderson's actually like playing along with that.
Uh-huh.
He's like, as long as you make it feel intentional, people aren't going to be able to judge you as hard. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a scapegoat,
Uh-huh. But
which is like
I also
Wes
wonder
Anderson's style in general,
I
right?
also wonder if he's like kind of commenting on his own work, and like
Yeah,
how some, I'm sure, I don't know, you in art, any artist might feel like a lot of what they do, or what they're successful for, is like it just kind of worked out that way, or by happy accident. And yeah, I wonder if he's kind of commenting on his own work in
yeah.
some ways.
I don't know, 100%. I think
Yeah.
you're right. Um, there's like a lot of jokes coming to my head. I remember one that stood out that actually the like whole theater was one of the loudest people laughed. Um, was the one what's the actor, the middle guy's the main guy? It's a
Timothy
storyline.
Chalamet, or um
Oh
oh,
no.
the middle guy.
Oh, sorry, the food critic main guy.
Oh, Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright, when
He
he's
was
like
wasn't he the third
exploring,
story? Yeah.
yeah, third story, sorry. He's exploring the police office
Mm-hmm.
station that has a million rooms
Yeah.
for no reason, and he has a little intricate map to
Uh-huh.
try to get to the dining room.
Yeah.
And his voiceover is he's just like, I'm really bad with geography. One
Yeah.
of one of the consequences of being gay.
Oh, is
And it
that what he
just throw
said? I
that,
missed that.
yeah. One of the, or he's like, one of the consequences of being a homosexual.
Oh.
And I like everyone in the theater burst up laughing. It was just like so random.
Uh-huh.
It worked really
Huh.
well.
Yeah.
There's a few other big moments that like I was bursting up laughing, but they're just like slipping my mind with the
Yeah.
million other things to talk about right
Honestly,
now.
it was my theater wasn't packed or anything, but it was I feel it, I feel like I was kind of the only one in there laughing, and I was just cracking
Oh,
up. There was only
yeah.
like two or three other couples in there, but I was cracking. There was a few other people who were laughing too, but
I people my theater had a good amount of people in it. People were laughing, but I definitely and I'm more I know like I hold it in more, and I definitely would like a joke would happen and it would get silent, and I would just like I'd like hold it in so I'm not
uh-huh,
like the only awkward person like
uh-huh,
exclaiming a loud laugh.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, this movie definitely hits hard on the jokes, I
yeah,
think. It's
super
not
funny.
lacking in its humor at all.
Um,
Uh,
yeah, I don't know.
anything like
Do
what
you have
else?
any like thoughts for what it's about, what it's all about? What's he saying?
Oh
I know you
no,
hate
this is
this.
what you like to do.
Yeah. Um,
What's he commentating on?
yeah.
What's the message? I
Yeah.
don't. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there's like just themes of death, and passing of I guess eras, and for I think for a time there's like this magazine that may have been kind of popular and brought culture to a region of United States, and kind of, and I don't know. I think it's like a bygone era type story or metaphor. Uh, yeah, maybe a time where people cared about. I don't know, but I
This
mean,
is why I
I
hate
like
this.
I agree, and but kind of my point was that like he's kind of dealing with a lot of, and in a lot of ways this is, I think, the where metaphor is at its best, where it's, you can't really put your finger on it, and it's not he's not saying anything, but like there's a lot of general like kind of thematic ideas that are at play,
Sure. And
and
I think a key thing you're saying there's a lot.
mhm.
Like I don't think he's saying one big thing at
Yeah,
all, and
definitely
it's
not.
and whatever it is, it's not obvious.
Mhm.
But I think he's saying 100 little things
Yeah.
throughout this movie,
Uh-huh.
and we brought a few of them, to like you talked about, like literally there's a few scenes with the modern art, the revolution, um, and a lot of even smaller things too, like him commentating on his
Mhm.
style and how people critique it, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I think there's a lot of
and
detail in there
and
with that.
like I really liked how in the second one it was like, Frances McDormand, an older woman who is, kind of wrapped up in these revolutionary ideas of Timothy Chalamet, a little, you know little boy who is
It's embarrassed about his
is
muscles.
busted. Yeah, he's embarrassed about his new muscles, and there's like, and like he's really creative and has a lot of interesting thoughts, and he's kind of poetic in the way that he expresses his revolutionary ideas, but at the
Yeah,
same time, like there's, I loved that juxtaposition of Frances McDormand kind of having a more critical eye as to
for
what he's
sure.
saying, but also kind of being wrapped up in it,
Yeah, a lot of that
and
middle story you're
finding,
talking about
yeah,
reminded me of like Britta in Community a
hmm,
bit, like
yeah,
just kind of poking like light fun
hmm,
at the angsty
yeah.
revolutionary like idealism
But I think
of
at the
these
same time,
kids.
not being too like mean about it, or not like, not really
Yeah, I mean
making
that's what I'm
fun
saying.
of.
Yeah,
He's like,
like
I
the
think,
Britification of
yeah,
it. It's like
the
having fun
well,
inside that culture.
I think the difference is in Community, he's making fun of those ideas. They're making fun of those types of people. I think in this one, it's poking fun at. I think there's a
Okay,
difference, and
sure, maybe a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. I like to distinguish the two. I think there's a important
Yeah, or just
difference.
like they immediately start like turning on each other,
Hmm.
like breaking into different factions, and
Yeah.
or just any, I guess, just any new group that forms like that. I guess it's
Hmm.
not, it's very specific,
Definitely.
but I think I'm at the end here.
Yeah. I mean, again,
All good,
I could go on for a while, but
and I could see this movie again and
yeah.
find a million new things to dig into.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
Um, that's our review of The French Dispatch by Wes Anderson.
Hmm.
Tune in next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time for our review of, could be a few different movies. Um, it could be Belfast.
Mm.
It could be
Spencer.
Spencer. Or maybe we'll just go back and throw on Eternals because it's
Hmm.
easy to watch on Disney Plus.
Oh, it is on Disney
Um,
Plus. That is well, I guess it doesn't matter to me. I'll see
but
it
maybe it's thirty
down the
dollars. I
street.
haven't looked it up yet. Oh no.
Yeah. It's actually cheaper to go see it in theaters for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So stay tuned. We'll be reviewing one of those movies next week.
Hmm.
And later, everybody.
All right. Bye.